Okay, Rupert, we talked in the first part your success at Southall and why you specialise there. But your real interest these days is greyhound racing. And you did mention briefly, about how your interest started. But why did you choose dogs to concentrate on ultimately?
Because I believe that I could apply mathematical algorithms far easier than I could in horse racing. Also, I could get a lot of churn in terms of turnover. There wouldn't be enough churn for me in terms of horse racing, and I felt that if I developed the systems, I could analyse things very quickly and automate a lot of things.
So, I mean, for the layman, that sounds like a very daunting task. I mean, where do you actually start? How do you go about building a system? When you sit down to do it, you've got to start somewhere. Where is it? Try and put it in layman's terms.
Well, you need to. I always believe if you can't measure something, you shouldn't worry about it. But I try and measure. I think measuring and being able to put a number on something is so important, and that's the objective side. So how do I start? Well, I use Excel, and I'm quite, due to my career, I'm quite experienced in. Well, I've used it for forever, so I know it inside out, and that's sort of one of my skill sets. So I can use it to quite an advanced level, and I create a system that allows me to rate dogs in terms of their ability. And which I should add at this point, Simon, I only do graded races. I don't touch opens at all, because I can compare things then. And so that's fine. That actually was quite a straightforward thing. That the most difficult thing really is to be able to put a number on the chance of a dog having trouble in terms of in running, mostly at the first bend. I think after that you're probably guessing a little bit, but it's that sort of first bend trouble. So that took me quite a long time to kind of work out. And it's the kind of thing I sort of put it in my subconscious and let it sort of run in the background. So it took me about a year or two to get that sort of to a point where I was happy with it. And the other thing I'd say is if you relate things to historic data, then you can then probably get a fair indication of the chances of things happening in terms of. So you basically got a rating for a dog and the chance of it having trouble, and that allows you to ultimately find some prices which you can work with.
Okay, do you have in inverted commas Southall of dog tracks that you concentrate on, or is it a wide, you cast your net wider?
I mean, it'll work at any track, but I think it works better at some than others. So I wouldn't really touch tracks like Crayford or Romford because it's bumper cars there, and I think that'll probably suit the video people a lot more than me. I like the tracks where there's perhaps more chance of a run. I find the best tracks I find are Hove, Newcastle, Perry Bar, Nottingham to an extent. I quite like Nottingham, that's my local track. Yeah, it's I think those are the main tracks. Yeah.
Okay, I would think that when you're doing a system or an algorithm or whatever, it's only as good as the data that you input. So how do you gather your facts and figures?
Well, I have the same information as anybody else, but I can quickly assess a rating for a dog by looking at it, and then I'll put that in my database, and then I'll amend it every time it runs. I can do it very quickly because I know, and you see also I have quite a good ability to sort of retain a lot of information in my head, and so I'll if a dog I'll know what I know that a dog is, say, a rating of 67 or 81. I'll just know, and then I sort of know its level, and then I can equate that. I can put that into the spreadsheet algorithm, and it will calculate the chance of trouble. So then it spits out the prices for me.
Okay, so do you look at sort of bulks first, bends slowly away, that sort of thing? Do you have to trust that somebody's accurately put that in, or do you look at the videos and sort of make sure you've got that right at least?
Well, because I know the kind of ability of the dog, that's a big help. But it is a problem occasionally. You have to take things on trust. I mean, you can have your confidence shattered a bit. There was a dog around a few weeks ago where it said it had been bulked, crowded, and I watched the video back, and it had the clearest than you could ever imagine, and it does shake your confidence a bit. You have to take it on trust, because I just can't get, I can't watch the videos because of the time. This is my edge, and I need to trust it. And then the system will adjust for, I know, approximately how many lengths will be lost for a type of trouble. It can vary, of course, but then of course I know the overall ability of the dog, so I can get, even though it might be wrong, I'm still going to be within the ballpark of the ability of that particular greyhound.
And would you ignore the official going? Would you know by the times what the going actually was? Do you have to take that into account?
I have to. I have to use what they tell me. But again, if I know, if a dog's run an 80, and a rating of 80, then it runs 65, and then it runs 80 again, I'll probably ignore the 65 and put that down to perhaps the time being wrong that's been supplied, or there was an issue in terms of trouble, whatever. So yeah, I just know an ongoing. I know the ability, and my system allows me to see the trends in dogs improving or regressing.
Okay, so I'm guessing that the actual betting is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, how much time is spent inputting all the data?
Well, somebody helps me do it, and I mean, I do have other, I have other business interests, but I do spend, quite a lot of time on this. It doesn't take that long, because I've got it all set up, and so it is quite fast.
Okay, so is it purely mathematics, or do you need to adopt some lateral thinking in your programming? And does programming do lateral thinking?
I think you can take it so far. I would say, Simon, it's 90% objective, which is your algorithm, and 10% subjective. So I will review a race for anything. I'll review every race, and that probably take me about 5 or 6 minutes to do that. So I'll review every race and make any, and I can plug in any adjustments just through feel, or I might check a video, but usually not. But I will do that. Yeah. So 10%, I'd say, of checking, which is the subjective side. Okay,
so the program, does the program like give you the idea of the winner, and then you sort of delve deeper? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, spot on. Yeah.
And does it ever throw one up when you say you can't be serious? That can't possibly win.
Yeah.
And yeah. So what wins? Your 10% or the 90%?
I think
price based.
Yeah, I think the 90% gives me a small margin, and the 10% adds the cream on top.
Okay, so track bias, you get that sometimes in obviously horse racing, but greyhound racing as well. Does that affect the outcome of your calculations? Can you account for that? Can you sort of tell by the results that there was obviously a track bias that day? I do account
for it. Yeah, I do account for it. I've got a way of doing that, and that's quite helpful. And then, of course, you've got an ongoing. You've got a meeting where going on, and if everything's being on the rails, then obviously you need to take that into consideration. So I'm watching a race meeting as it goes along, and I'm getting a feel for, if everything, if it just happens that every dog is 6-4 and they're from track one and they're winning, I'm not going to sort of think, well, there might not, probably isn't a bias. But if the rags are all winning on the inside, then it probably is. So you have to sort of adjust as you go along, potentially.
So are you a slave to it? For example, how many bets would you have at a meeting, and would you have to sit there and watch it on the telly every single, and then readjust if you saw there was a bit of a bias developing, that sort of thing?
I suppose I'm a slave to it to an extent, but I don't mind.
What I mean is, can your computer system churn out your bets and you have them all in the morning and then go for a pint in the evening and come back to how much you've won? Or do you have to be watching it
No, you
to
don't have
think,
to be,
oh,
no.
well, you know?
You don't have to be, but no, well, actually, I think you do to an extent, because obviously I can't get on with the bookmakers anymore, or very, very minimal amount. So I'm having to, I think part of the skill is watching Betfair prior to the meeting, and prior to the race, sorry, you know, when it starts to sort of liven up 4 or 5 minutes before the race starts, and so, you know, there's an element of skill in that, in terms of placing value bets.
Yeah, so previously I've interviewed Jerry Crocs with Jordan Vine. I mean, they watch the videos. And this is what they do. They watch the videos. You're not interested in watching the videos.
No.
So what do you know that they don't? Or do you just find a bit of a smaller edge in what you do? They're going to find the same dog, are they?
Well, funny enough, I know Jerry, lovely bloke, and we spent an afternoon together actually looking at things, and we kept coming up with similar answers, even though we're doing it a very different way, which is quite encouraging. Well, certainly encouraging for me, and because, you know, Jerry's a great judge. Well, there's different ways to skin a cat, and I just feel that I can do it my way, and I think video. I mean, I can cover a lot of ground doing what I do, and I might miss things, but I'd hope my turnover would. But I know it does. I know it makes up for any slightly less margin I might make from the video guys who watch everything.
Okay, when we were corresponding before we did this, this is not meant to be insulting because you said it. Boring gives you an edge. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, I'm betting on graded races. You know, I'm betting on mainly mediocre races, and so I'm not, you know, like I'm not betting on the competitions, or the Derby or anything like that. I'm betting on the merry-go-round of graded racing, and it's and the fact that I'm specialising in something, and I'm just churning, is probably in the eyes of some people very boring, but it's a profitable thing. So I think you have to be boring to be a successful punter to some extent. I don't think you can be too flamboyant, and it works for me.
Okay, I'm interested in, you said what you said before, 90% objective, 10% subjective. Now, is that 10% a threat to you winning when you're having a bad run?
Do you mean that my subjective outlook might be skewed?
Yes. But would you start getting a bit desperate and ignoring your 90%? Because
no. I mean, I think the biggest challenge I've had personally, I imagine a lot of people who do this as well have, is the mental side. You know, I'm good at the maths and I understand it, and I know if I was a robot and I just didn't have the mental side and I just did what I did, I think I'd do, you know, even better, because I think the mental side can affect you, and it's something that is the biggest challenge. No, I think I just try and keep doing what I'm doing, and I think one has to remember how one's done in the past. So if I have a losing run, I keep doing what I'm doing. I think there's a temptation to reduce stakes, or I certainly want to increase stakes. I think the biggest thing, actually, Simon, for a punter, and I think I find this more of a challenge than dealing with losing runs, is what I call protectionism, where, you know, you have a very good run and then you almost, well, I don't want to lose this, I don't want to lose what I've made, and you always sort of slow down that way. So it almost turns it on its head, and I think that's quite dangerous as well. But no, I think you just have to keep going. That goes back to the boring thing. You just have to keep going and doing what you're doing. And if I have a bad run, I think, well, actually, you know what? I had a really bad run last month and I still made X. So don't worry about it. You just have to keep going and believe in it.